WV Uncommonplace. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommonplace digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our uncommon place.
Hey everybody, this is JR from West Virginia Uncommonplace, and I am here to tell you about Anchor Nebula and their Go Anywhere series of projectors. They are some of the best projectors you can use when you're on the go, going camping, just even around the house. And these models include the Capsule 2, the Capsule 3 laser, and the brand new Mars 3. So definitely take time to go out and grab one of these projectors, and you will be immersed in an experience that you're not going to get anywhere else. Remember, Anchor Nebula is the way to go. Welcome, fellow listeners, to another thrilling episode of West Virginia Uncommonplace. We're still deep into the Rise and Fall series. We're going to cover another one that was dominant. There was a block of cartoons. Disney, for a time with their little partnership with ABC, had a block. They had the cartoons on lockdown on Saturdays with the gummy bear joints. But then they had freaking Darkwing Duck. They had the Rescue Rangers. They had Scrooge. And then they had Darkwing Duck. So today we're going to don our capes. We're going to dive into the enigmatic world of this animated nostalgia. Now, the spotlight is going to be really tight on this. So let's get ready to relive some quirkiness, action, and humor as we dissect the rise, the zenith, the ultimate fall of St. Canard's legendary Cape Crusader, Darkwing Duck. Now, once again, we're going back to 1991. 1991 was one of the years that cartoons exploded. Darkwing Duck jumped onto the scene, ushering in an era of animated heroics with a side of satire, which has comedy. If you don't know, satire is comedy. It's wit, grit, and comedy. The show blended elements of superhero tropes, film noir, aesthetics, and downright silliness to concoct a recipe that captivated both kids and adults. Now, mind you, this is one of the more darker and more edgier cartoons coming from Disney at this time. This one in the cartoon tailspin kind of moved me like in a different direction as I'm older now, because I look at the concepts and how they were more themed. Like, because I take those two cartoons, compare it to something that came out a little bit later, like the Aladdin animated series, and you can see there's a difference in the tones. So let's get into it. The show's lead character is Drake Mallard, aka Darkwing Duck, and he's brought to life by the incredible voice actor Jim Cummings. With Cummings' dynamic range, Darkwing's bravado was a masterclass in voice artistry, giving us infamous catchphrases that are now etched into pop culture. As the show soared to success, it offered a colorful rogues gallery of villains, each with their own eccentric scam and schemes, from Negaduck's malevolent mischief to unpredictable antics of the fearsome five. The show balanced humor and thrilling action with a deft hand. But, as with any tale that happens here, the winds of change began to blow by the late 90s. The landscape of animation changed in the 90s. Budget constraints and programming adjustments and shifts in networks' priorities cast an ominous shadow over our beloved Darkwing Duck. The show's fall from grace was as quirkily tragic as Darkwing's own escapades. The reasons behind his cancellation are multifaceted. A convergence of industry challenges, competition, and a shift in audience preferences as networks aimed for different demographics. Superheroes, even ones as iconic as Darkwing Duck, found themselves in the crossfire. The final episode aired in the city of St. Canard fell silent. The cape was hung, the hat was doffed for one last time, but in the wake of the departure, the echoes of Darkwing Duck lived on, refusing to fade away. And from time to time since then, you always hear them bring up that we'll bring it back. And I can say this, that Darkwing Duck never did make it back. In some instances of doing things with freaking DuckTales and stuff like that, he may have come back, and figurines at these Comic-Cons and reintroducing toys of these things. Like, because Darkwing Duck was another one of these things. The animated blocks back then were basically built like this. If your show was good, you got a video game, you got some toys, you basically had merchandise. And then you rolled out with that. And if you could keep that going, you were good to go. Darkwing Duck ended up with all that and some change, because Darkwing Duck is still one of the hardest games. But in this block that of animation that Disney had going right then, it was gritty, it was different. And I think with weird acquisitions like buying Doug and different things like that, slowly you've seen a difference in Disney. And then like with Disney, they were getting more ambitious. They started buying stuff at this time. Like, this is when, like, I think they were in talks with Marvel. They were in talks with ESPN. So they were in ABC as a whole also. So it was so much going on with Disney at that time that towards the end of some of these cartoons, and a lot that you will hear on the show, you will hear a lot of downturn in the late 90s, because Disney was going into the next step of who they were becoming and who they are now. Because one thing that is not talked about a lot is that Disney as a whole was not this big company in the 80s and 90s that people see now with the Marvel stuff. So it's one of those deals. But once again, I am JR, and I want you guys to get out here and seek the uncommon, and that will bring you to the West Virginia Uncommonplace. Because when you're seeking it, you find the uncommonplace, and it's here with us. So once again, thank you all, and thank you for sharing, posting, and whatever you do to keep this show going. I appreciate you, we appreciate you, and thank you very much. Once again, I am JR, and I'm signing off.
It can be hard to teach your kids about how their emotions can affect their actions and attitudes. Sometimes it is the smallest thing that can make us angry and react in unkind ways. What Should Dragon Do follows Dragon and her two roommates as they navigate the everyday irritations of living together. Dragon responds in anger when things don't always go her way. Through question and answer, kids learn how to choose patience and kindness and how to make better choices. Written by Stephanie Webb with beautiful and colorful illustrations by Kids Art, What Should Dragon Do will make you laugh as you read about Dragon and her adventures with her friends. What Should Dragon Do can be ordered online through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Chapters Indigo, or directly from the publisher at friesenpress.com. It is also available as an audiobook on Audible.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at oncommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website, and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening, and tune into the next episode.